Hi, I'm Michael Smith for Nevada Trails. Tonight I have a very special show. I have Kim Copel, who is my Pony Express docent, and also you're the docent of the Lake Tahoe Historical Museum, Genoa Courthouse Museum, and a trustee of the Douglas County Historical Museum.
Yes.
So yeah. I think you'd love history.
Yeah, well, yeah, it all kind of ties in there. So.
Well, actually, to do research on the show, I actually went to Hope Valley yesterday and saw a Pony Express marker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It ran through there first 4 weeks.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild because they had it paved.
Yeah. Not back then.
No, I didn't have it paved back then, but it was it's a really beautiful meadow to kind of go through. There's water, and I don't know if they don't stop for anything though, probably.
Yeah, no, that originally was for the first 4 weeks before they shortened the trail to go over Kingsbury Toll Road. And that was the immigrant road, you know, for many different venues, so it was just natural that the Pony Express went through there, too.
So that marker was only for 4 weeks?
Yeah, basically for 4 weeks. In 1861, they used the route again because of heavy snowstorm and floods and things like that, so they couldn't go over Kingsbury Toll Road, so they had the alternate route to go through Hope Valley. So that's why they honor it when they do the re-ride, which I think we'll probably talk about a little bit later,
Well, I like all these re-rides, but you were telling me that you're also the secretary of the Pony Express for, did you say Nevada?
For Nevada, yeah.
Nevada?
The whole Nevada
state?
division. Yeah, it's
wow.
Amazing.
What kind of duties does that entail? That's a lot of people here.
Well, yeah, when we have, not everybody comes to our monthly meetings, but at our monthly meetings, I have secretarial duties just like any other association, but it also means that I'm in charge of membership and keeping the bylaws and things like that. So it's an important position, so I'm honored that they feel that that's something that I can accomplish for the association.
Well, ever since I was a kid, I've loved the Pony Express. Oh. It just kind of captures the imagination and the daring and all those things, and to be a young person doing all the things that the young people did in the Pony Express.
Yeah.
And but basically, the ride was from Sacramento to St. Joseph, Missouri. Is that correct?
It was about 2,000 miles, and that's a long way for horses to travel.
And they did it in like 10 days.
10 days. That was the challenge because the situation of the United States in 1860 was very precarious because we were pretty sure they were going to get into a war between the states. And the quickest way that mail was getting out to the west, which was no man's land except for out in San Francisco in the gold fields, and then, most recently at that time would have been the silver fields in Virginia City. There's a lot of propaganda getting out there, and it was allowed to happen because it took 25 days. That was the quickest way to get information out to the west.
Now, was that around South America by boat, or is that the southern area by carriage?
Well, at that time, yeah, it was going two ways.
Yeah.
Okay, by boat took almost 2 to 3 months, but...
And then the carriage was 23 days or something?
Yeah, it's about 23 to 25 days by stagecoach.
Stagecoach, yeah.
Yeah, the Butterfield Overland Mail System.
Yeah.
And that was the quickest way at the time, but the problem with stagecoaches is, they carried people, they carried bullion, they carried mail, too. But they were getting robbed on a regular basis, and they couldn't travel 24 hours a day. They'd break down, and so thus the 25 days average if they would arrive.
Plus, with all the the major important information going back and forth, 10 days was a good thing.
10 days, when Russell Majors and Waddell, a popular freighting company at that time, was able to work out a relay system that they felt could accomplish delivering the mail in 10 days. It would be horseback relay system, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Okay, that was mind-blowing in 1860, and they laid it out and they went for it. The government went for it, and so this was a very precarious venture at that time.
Well, when is the re-ride this year coming up?
Oh, the re-ride in 2013. That's going to be exciting. It is going to take place between June 17th and June 27th. And the Nevada division will receive the mail out of Ipapaw on the 23rd. It will be the 23rd of June, probably 11:30 a.m. Nevada time, because the time change between Utah.
Oh. And
it won't reach state line, Nevada, in Tahoe until the 26th at about 11:30 a.m. in the morning. So we'll keep you up to date and give you the website to follow it, because it's really fun. You can follow.
We're going to have to get some lights for
yeah.
the camera.
And it's going. You know, even though back in 1860-61, simultaneous riders would leave St. Joseph and San Francisco at the same time, and they'd even cross at a certain point in the United States and, you know, say howdy to each other. But when we do the re-ride, we just do it one way, and each year we switch directions. This year, thus how I described, we're going to be going east to west.
Excellent.
Now, when we go east to west in Nevada, we take the route over Old Kingsbury Toll Road. Okay, when we go west to east, we honor the Hope Valley route that you and I just talked about. So this year we're going over Old Kingsbury.
Well, as a kid, is that when you discovered the Pony Express too?
You know, actually, no. I mean, I was aware of Western movies, and I know that, you know, a lot of kids were enamored with the Pony Express because it was just part of, you know, the excitement of Western history, and I wasn't really into that. But I did find in our family history about 10, 12 years ago, when my father gave us the family tree, I saw a little blurb in there with my great-great-great-grandfather that came out from Kentucky about the, you know, 1860 to get rich in the gold fields of, you know, California, and we all know that the gold was kind of gone by then, but he didn't, and a lot of men didn't. When he came out, there was just one little line in our history that said that he worked for the Pony Express.
Oh, wow.
And I was intrigued because I thought, wow, everybody knows about the Pony Express. Now, in looking into it, I couldn't find much more information, but it kind of sounded more like, not that he was a rider, but while he was coming out, he probably was hired, because he was coming this way too, to help kind of guard the Pony Express when they had the trouble with the Indians.
So he might be a guard of the station type thing?
Or a guard along the way. That kind of, you know, was a lookout on his own journey. They probably paid him a little bit to kind of ride along.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was exciting to me to find out. But then,
if he was riding along, he'd be riding pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a ride-along job.
Yeah, they were expected to ride when they could 10 to 12 miles an hour. And that's why it was set up the way it was. Now, it was different through the Sierra Nevada because of the terrain.
Yeah, it's probably the toughest terrain, I would guess. Or is the desert tougher?
No, the Sierra Nevada was tougher. Now, we had a little bit of trouble with the Indians out in the desert. But the Sierra Nevada, to this day, is still considered the toughest terrain of the entire historic trail. And that's because of the winters and the terrain again. But it's the most treacherous part, I should say, of the trail.
Well, I live down the hill towards around Placerville area, and it rains a lot during some of the parts of the year.
Yes.
So they're getting wet, and so that's hard to run. So they be wet, and they go up into the snow area, then they get cold.
Yeah.
So they're carrying that weight besides the mochila.
Yes.
And we have a mochila behind us, if you can pan to that.
Yes.
And the question I have, this is a silly question maybe, but hopefully you don't mind silly questions.
No, love them.
Okay, how does the mochila keep the mail dry?
And that's not a silly question. People wonder because it's leather. The mochila that you're looking at now is actually a modern mochila that we use for the re-rides today. So it's bigger, and it's designed to fit over a Western saddle. There are no known mochilas left from 1860 to 61. The way they were used and used up. And they were a bit smaller. The cantinas, which you see here, that's what we call the pockets.
Letter holders?
Yeah, those are the pockets that carry the mail. There's 4 of them. You're only seeing one side of the mochila. But those were even smaller during those days, and they fit over what was more of a military saddle, okay? Now, again, even though they were smaller, it worked the same way, and 3 of the 4 cantinas were locked. This one here, was always left open because in between stations they would exchange mail.
Okay.
The other 3 were locked either in St. Joseph or San Francisco. When the letters were prepared, and because the horses ran 10 to 12 miles an hour, the weight on the back of the horse had to be very light in order to keep everything moving. Those riders were young men who were jockey size, only about 120 pounds. The saddle and the mochi itself at that time, much smaller, was about 13 pounds together.
Wow.
So that left only 20 pounds for the mail, just 20 pounds. So it had to be important things. You weren't writing back home to Aunt Edna about her garden back in New Jersey. You were writing important information, if at all, and it had to be written on what we would consider rice paper. That was bound together, and then a waterproof kind of wrap, leather wrap was put over it before it was put in the cantina.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was made waterproof because they rode through snow, rain, sleet, rode across rivers. and that everything had to be kept dry.
Because if you're around here, you're going to get wet.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Warren Upson, who was the writer out of Sportsman's Hall and eventually to Friday Station at Lake Tahoe, but for the first 4 weeks into Genoa, most of his journey throughout the 18 months that the Pony Express lasted was in snow and sleet, and he had to walk his horse more often than ride it. And so that, so that's a very real concern.
That is awesome.
Awesome history. These people were gnarly. They were the rock stars of the day.
I would think so.
Yeah.
We're getting down about a minute and a half. Could you give out some contact information so if people want to join the Pony Express?
Sure.
Is it Pony Express?
The National Pony Express, yeah. These days it is now the National Pony Express Association. And you can get a hold of us by NevadaPonyExpress.org, or you can call me, being the membership chairman. You can reach me at 775-392-1072, because the second part of the show, I think we're going to explain why you might want to be interested in being part of the modern-day Pony Express.
Well, I know. I already want to join.
Okay, well, you can be a writer.
Yeah, well, when we did the show at the museum in Genoa, you know your stuff about the Pony Express, and if you want to know more about the Pony Express, go to that museum in Genoa and really do the research. It's right there. So it's the real deal. If you're a child or an adult, everybody will like it because it's coming to life.
Oh, it is. It's bringing the Old West to life, and that's what intrigued me about it.
Well, like I said, it was enough to get me to Hope Valley to look around to see an actual Pony Express trail, and the marker was like, oh, I see a marker.
Yeah, it was real. It was a real, it was a real thing.
And I know the weather around here, but we'll be right back. We're going to take a short break, and we'll come back and talk more with Kim about the Pony Express. Thank you very much.
Let's raise our wine glasses. Let's raise our beer glasses. Let's raise whatever glasses you have. Happy summer, y'all. What a nice hang. Super hang.
We're back with Kim Copel of the Pony Express, and I was just thinking about the National started, Association Pony Express Station started in 1978.
That is correct, yes.
And you also started having rerides in 1978, so that's a pretty fast, you create the association and you create the rerides the same year?
Well, the reasoning behind that was in 1978, a few horsemen that were sitting around Sportsman's Hall up in Pollock Pines, which was a Pony Express station back in the 1860s, they were kind of bemoaning the fact that the history of the Pony Express was getting lost, the true history of the Pony Express. You could see it in movies. And in the past, in 1930s and at different times, they had re-rides, but there was never a formal association. What they also wanted to do was reestablish, identify, and re-ride the National Pony Express Trail. So they formed an association, and they encouraged the other 7 states that were involved in the original Pony Express to join that association. But they wanted to reenact and re-ride the actual route that the riders rode in 1860 and 61.
Well, I think it's good because as a kid, I'm pretty sure Charlton Heston played Wild Bill Hickok, and somebody else played Cody, Bill Cody or something.
Buffalo Bill Cody.
So Cody was actually around for about a month of that, wasn't he? He
was. He was a rider for a very short time until his mother became ill, and then he had to go back home to attend her, but he rode for the Pony Express.
And Hickok was a fiction.
That's an area that got kind of confused and convoluted. He did work for the Pony Express.
Okay, then I heard wrong.
Well, no, you didn't. What you probably heard is what morphed into the fact that he was a rider. But he was never a rider. He was a station keeper, and he also delivered a lot of the products and a lot of the horses and a lot of the things to the station that the stations needed. But we have to remember, Wild Bill Hickok, he was well over 6 feet tall. And he would have been nowhere near 120 pounds.
That's for sure. He was a big man for those days.
Right, so he could not have been a rider. They would not have used him as a rider. So he was contracted with the Central Overland California and Pikes Peak Express Company, which was shortened into the Pony Express. Most people called it the Pony Express.
Wow.
Yeah, so your information was half right.
Oh, well, as secretary, do you go to a lot of meetings for the Pony Express? Because I know I talked to you were on at a convention in Wyoming,
right.
I think.
Yeah, well, in Kansas. And each year we have our National Pony Express convention in one of the 8 states that was, part of the trail. But we meet once a month. Our association does for Nevada. We meet at Grandma Hattie's restaurant in Carson City at 7 o'clock each month on the second Thursday. Now, we're not going to be doing that in December. We go dark in December, and we have our big budget meeting. But anybody's welcome to come to those meetings.
Is that for like a breakfast meeting?
It's a dinner meeting,
oh,
7
dinner.
p.m.
That's easier to go
when
to.
most people can come, yeah.
Well, that sounds good. So you're actually pretty busy throughout the year.
Oh, yeah, we always have something going. It's not just about the re-ride in June. Some people think that, but we try to keep our name and our history out there all year long. And so at different times we'll be involved in parades, like the 4th of July parade in Fallon. We also have, around May or so, the 4th graders of Nevada, when they're studying Nevada history, which we're part of, they invite us out there to reenact a mail exchange.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we do that for the 4th graders, and we actually, if they'll write out letters, we'll exchange from one school to another, and then we'll talk about the history.
Well, I like that. Well, as far as all the Pony Express riders, is there any particular story that you really kind of like when you're telling it, people in the museum?
Oh, yes. There's a couple, but I think what ends up being the most exciting to people is Robert Pony Bob Haslam. When I do history presentations...
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the big one.
That's the big one, and mainly because he was known to have the longest ride for a single rider in the history of the Pony Express. And quickly I'll tell you kind of what's a little bit behind that. Now, he was from England. He was 20 years old, and he was hired to build some of the stations through Nevada. And when he was finished with that, they gave him the station of Friday Station up at Lake Tahoe for his starting point. Okay, so that was the easternmost station in Nevada. That was right there on state line. And his route was to go from state line, Friday Station right there at the bottom of Kingsbury Grade, 75 miles out to what we know as Fort Churchill today, but at that time it was Buckland Station. So he had 75 miles, no big deal, right?
Oh, geez, that's...
Yeah, I mean, he went, through the Sierras, and that was it. Now, very early on into his career as a Pony Express rider, something else developed in northern Nevada, and that was the Pyramid Lake Indian War.
That's
Pyramid
correct,
Lake
yeah.
Paiute War, yes. And he wasn't even aware that it started when he got the May 12th mail in 1860 and was heading out to Buckland Station. Now, he got into a few of the stations, like into Carson, and a few of the stations on the way out into Bucklands, and there weren't enough horses for him to change to a fresh horse, and he thought something was up. gets out to Buckland Station, and very rare for a Pony Express rider because they were very brave men. That rider who was supposed to take over from him and take the next leg of the journey out to Smith's Creek was too afraid to go on.
Oh, no.
So they paid him $50 extra to go out there. Now, they made $100 a month, and he got $50 extra just to take that other rider's route.
The mail must have been pretty important.
Yeah, it was very important. And they took their job seriously. And usually the attitude was not that, well, they're not paying me enough, like we might take that today. It was honor bound. So he went ahead and rode on out to Smith's Creek Station. It was uneventful. He did not encounter any Indian trouble on the way out there. He spent the night, or slept for about 9 hours until the westbound mail was coming back, which was his duty to take. When he got to Cold Spring Station on the way back, however, everything changed. He came upon the station where it was burned, the horses were run off, and the station master was killed and some of the attendants. He knew now that trouble had met their door. So he went back through every station sounding the alarm. He encouraged everybody at the other stations to abandon those stations and run for cover. And he was credited with saving many lives.
It's like Paul Revere.
Like Paul Revere, in a way. By the time he ended back up at Friday Station, he rode 380 miles.
Oh, geez.
The longest rider for one single rider, who mostly their route was 75 miles. Okay? Now, he was also known for the quickest ride in
That's
the
what I was just thinking. That many miles and how fast he usually goes.
Yeah, well, this is a completely different ride, though. Now,
Okay.
now hear this. The original ride that we were talking about just now was in May of
Okay.
1860. Now, in March of 1861, President Lincoln was delivering his inaugural address. Everybody up to St. Joseph, Missouri got to hear it pretty quickly. People out west didn't get to hear it. It had to be delivered out here. What better way to do it than the Pony Express riders? Now, they set up a few extra stations and horses along the way, but Pony Bob Haslam was credited with the quickest ride during that time. He rode 120 miles in 8 hours and 20 minutes.
Wow.
Oh, while wounded, he rode with an arrow through his jaw and an arrow through his arm. That was how honor-bound they were.
Well, I heard he got into the arm and he just pulled it off and kept
Yeah.
on going, and then it got shot and took out 5 teeth, too.
He took out 5 teeth and broke his jaw.
And then they said something about, get off the horse, we'll get somebody else. And he said, no.
No.
He's a tough dude.
Yeah,
you know?
they all were that tough.
Yeah.
Now, that ride was the quickest ride in the entire Pony Express history because normally they would deliver the mail in between 10 and 12 days. The mail for President Lincoln's inaugural address delivered in 7 days, 17 hours.
It's pretty darn important
That's pretty
stuff.
darn important, yeah.
So that's when you go do your docents, that's when you make sure you tell.
I do, because I want people to understand, how tough this was and how honorable these young men were. The average age was 20, but the youngest rider was 11 years old, and he was out of Woodford's. That was Bronco Charlie Miller. The oldest rider was
45,
45. That was Major Egan.
Yeah.
And he filled in, but he was the oldest rider.
But he had like a son also riding too, I
He
think.
he was a regular rider.
Yeah.
But I tell you, how many people would let their 11-year-old child ride 7,500 miles through Indian territory or by themselves carrying the mail?
Well, probably in the beginning they didn't realize there wasn't really an Indian war at the beginning.
No, there wasn't, but there was, always the threat there, even in other places. But, kids were older then even when they were younger, and they grew up riding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you said there was only one Mochia lost?
As the story goes, one Mochia was lost and one rider was killed during his course of duty, and they were not connected. The Mochia was lost, and it was found, I believe, if the story's correct, a couple years later, intact with all the letters. Now, the thing with the Indians is they saw these brave men riding and guarding this sack with their lives, and they wanted to know what was so important that was in these sacks that these men were willing to give their lives for this sack. And so when they finally were able to steal a Mochia, they opened it up, and I'm sure what was inside was not worth it to them, so they just simply left it there. So it was found intact years later, if the story's correct.
Well, I can see that they respected bravery. And
They respected the bravery.
These guys were tough as nails, and then the one that got killed in eastern Nevada, he didn't get his hair chopped because
No.
he was a brave fighting the Indians, and they spared him because he showed bravery.
Yeah, they had a respect for somebody who would stand up and fight them back, especially on their own, unarmed without any other help.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Just we're down to about a minute, 40 seconds. Can you kind of give out your information and kind of wrap her up on what you want to tell the young people, especially out there?
I would be very happy to. You know, we accept riders as young as 14, women and men. I mean, the first woman who rode in the Pony Express re-rides was not until 1990. Now most of the riders are women because most of the horse people are women. But we want everybody, and you can be as young as 14 if you have your parents sign for you. But we accept members to, you don't even have to be a rider. I started out as an associate member, but if you want to get involved with the Pony Express and you want to see more about what it's about, I'll give you two websites. xphomestation.com is the national website. You can get a lot of history and activities off of there, but if you're in Nevada, which most of the people watching are, you can get a hold of us at nevadaponyexpress.org and find out what the Nevada division is doing. You can also call me at 775-392-1072 if you're interested in membership, which I hope you are because it's an exciting organization.
Yeah, young or old, how cool is it to be in the Pony Express?
Yeah, to say that you're a Pony Express rider, exactly.
So if you're a rider, how far would your leg be?
In the re-ride, probably a couple miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple miles.
That's
Because we have about 500 people that ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, come to talk to Kim and join the Pony Express Association. I think you'll learn a lot. It's treasured history, and like I said, when I was hiking yesterday, I came upon a marker that kind of gave me the chills from learning so much about you and your enthusiasm. So, Kay, thank you for being on the Nevada Trails.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
I really appreciate it because you've turned your passion into something I'm really enjoying. So
well, I hope to share it with everybody else and have everybody else as passionate as you've become just by hearing what I had to say.
Go check out the trails. It's Michael Smith saying, have fun. Thank you.